What's up, everyone? I just wanted to take a second and let you know how much I appreciate all of our listeners and supporters of the podcast. If you enjoyed the content, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a second to like, subscribe, share, and review our podcast. It really helps us out in ranking to get the word out about the industry. Now here's a brand new episode of All Wrapped Up.
I was able to work outside. We had a food truck in my driveway. Can you imagine how my neighbors feel? But like I said, our daycare is across the street, and I guess we were making enough noise to where all the kids heard us, and they were all at the window. And one of the ladies there sent me a video, and it's just my son Lincoln saying, "That's my mommy. That's my mommy."
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to All Wrapped Up Podcast. We'll be interviewing industry-leading wrap companies to share tips, tricks, stories, and more. All right, so we'll go live now. We got Krystal McCoy from Candy Wraps. What's going on, Krystal?
Not much. Just gearing up for the weekend.
Nice. Typically how we start the podcast is we try to get an insight of what you had going on for projects this week. Can you let us in on some cool wrap installs you had going on?
Yeah, this past week I've had some really cool projects. I've got a food truck rolling out for Cousin's Maine Lobster down here in Florida. It's actually about to go up to Charlotte. And I just finished that up today. We wrapped it in a cool satin black Avery film, and then we did a lot of decals on top to make it really pop with the gloss and the satin finish, and just so you can read that logo from a side or anything like that. So made that one really pop. I'm working on a Jaguar F-type in my garage right now. I'm wrapping that in some 3M satin smoldering red, and it's going to look really hot in the sun. I'm also working on an Audi A6. We're going to put that in that new, I believe it's the SOT film, the brushed. It's a very shiny brushed metal film. I want to say it's a SOT film, or maybe it's a 3M. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that, but we're going to get on that tomorrow. I also have a surfboard that we've wrapped up today. We've got 2 full wraps on vans, and that's just kind of an overview of my week, and I'm sure I can throw in about 5 or 6 more jobs, the partial van wraps. I mean, really, we do everything.
Busy.
This week, been busy. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've got a little bit of both with the commercial industry as well as the color change. What do you do more of?
Honestly, I shy away from color changes. They are not my favorite. I just, as an installer and being an installer for as many years as I have, I see more money and more promise, more security in the commercial side of wraps. You will always need advertisements. Businesses pop up every single day. You know, there's a statistic that there's 1,000 people that move to Florida every day. And so out of those 1,000 people, how many people are going to start businesses, and how many people are really going to want their Lamborghini green or yellow?
So with the color change stuff, where do you do all your installs? Do you have like a shop? Because you had mentioned you do it you had cars in your garage.
Yeah, I shy away from color changes, so I typically don't do them. They just take longer. But if I am doing them, I typically have 2 places. I either do them in my home garage because I do not have a shop, or I do them over on the other coast, over near Tampa, Clearwater area. And I have a shop over there, an exotic shop that breaks down the vehicles. And I've just had a long-standing relationship with them. I kind of show up, do my wrap, and leave. They break it down and put it back together. And the same in my home. But outside of that, again, I really shy away from doing color changes for a lot of my customers. So those are my 2 places. And again, no shop here. So
yeah. You're a traveling installer, right?
I am.
Basically go where the work's at.
Exactly.
How does that differ as far as different people in the industry, other than going from job to job? What do you see that's a big hump that you have to kind of deal with being an installer? Because sometimes you may not even know what you're walking into at times,
You sound like you've been in my shoes.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs that you walk into it and you're promised, an AC facility and no graphics on there and 3M 480, and you walk in and there's reflective removal, you're working outside. So really, I think my biggest hurdle with being mobile outside of the communication between customers, shops, and myself would be having my tools. Working here at my garage, I kind of just unload my car, put everything in the garage, wrap, and then in between this color change I'm working on, I've got to reload up, load all my tools up in the car, go drive an hour and a half, do a job, come back, so on and so forth. And so a lot of times little things get missed, maybe a torch or a pouch, your tool pouch.
Yeah.
And so those little things really add up, not only because of the time, but, I'm going to Home Depot to pick up little things here and there. And so just going from being mobile to being a little stationary, I think is probably one of my biggest hurdles that I do overcome often. But again, I am making a lot of trips to Home Depot and Lowe's.
Definitely. Yeah, you basically have to have two of everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
at some point, As far as like traveling, I've had this conversation with another installer, Blake from Remix. He's also a traveling installer. We had talked about, pricing and that's always a big kind of like big elephant in the room with pricing as far as like square footage and stuff. And I had mentioned, do you charge for your mileage? Because that's wear and tear on your vehicle, and it being your majority of the time you spend is in your car from job to job. He's like, no, I usually eat it. How do you take that into consideration when you're traveling from job to job? I mean, most of your jobs local, where you're only driving maybe half an hour max, or are you driving outside of your town in city?
I would definitely hire Blake, that's for sure. I'm in the same boat as him. Last year alone, I put 40,000 miles on my car, my brand new car, and I bought that knowing that I would be using that, running it into the ground. And because of the miles, as a business owner, it's just not smart for me to lease, of course. And so, I did take that risk. And at the same time, as a business owner, when you're taking those 40,000 miles, that's a pretty large write-off. And I'm not having to prove, I'm not going out of my way to prove anything. I'm just putting in the miles and hours. So if I'm able to squeeze something out of my customer for travel, it's very minimum, because my customers are not just one-offs. I'm not just driving and doing one job for one customer a year. This customer is going to be bringing me a constant flow of work, where the traveling to me really, if I've driven 200 miles that day, that's a lot. But if I've driven 200 miles that day, I'm writing off, quite a bit. So
majority of it. Now, are the people that you're doing installs for in the industry as well that are just using you for your service for installers, or do you get a lot of fleet work where it's same place once or twice a week and you just got a large fleet of 50 to 100 vehicles and you get them done when you get them done?
So it really depends, and this is where I'll bring out the fact that I have two businesses. I have Candy Wraps and the Wrap Wizard. Candy Wraps focuses on the color change, the really cool stuff. Well, it has up until this year, and this year you'll start to see a lot more of our other business side of things being posted. I also own a company called the Wrap Wizard, and what we do there is we're strictly an install company, no printing, no selling of wraps. We come in, we do our installs, and for those jobs, we're doing a lot of traveling. We've got a lot of national accounts. We're traveling all the way up to Georgia.
Wow.
We'll do anything, all the way down. We have installers in Miami, South Florida, that we would travel to if they weren't available. But outside of that, for the Wrap Wizard, we are doing a lot of traveling, and that's where a majority of the 40,000 miles came from last year. But for Candy Wraps, I try and sell, any of those. If I am selling a wrap, it's going to be a local one. Anywhere in Central Florida, but pretty much from Tampa to Orlando. And so, again, I am trying to keep those close, but again, at the same time, I did have a Candy Wrap fleet job, and that's what we'll be definitely bringing out this year, is the Candy Wrap fleet side of commercial wraps. But we went all the way up to Illinois for 55 trucks, removal and install, and that was a great just word of mouth referral for us all the way up to Illinois. It was a great trip. 1 week we were in and out, and it was one of those jobs that travel cost. There was no travel cost.
That's insane. As far as having help and whatnot for these types of large installs, do you have the help to that you can call up on and have them come out with you?
Yes and no. For the most part, yes. I do have quite a few installers around Central Florida that I can lean on from time to time. But over the past 7 years, I've been installing for 7 going on 8. At this point, I've definitely realized if I can't handle it, I don't want to give it to another installer. And outside of that, I don't
Right.
have any employees. I've had my brother who's worked with me up until next week, actually. And he worked with me for about a year, and he's been a helper slash very beginner installer. And outside of that, I don't have anybody else. I've been solo pretty much since the beginning. I learned how to be solo. So if I have a big job and I know that it's going to be economically better for me to hire somebody for the day or two versus taking a whole week on it, I will. And I do have those people available to lean on.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that you actually do all the installs yourself and you're solo because you've got so much great work and big jobs on your Instagram page. That's just unbelievable. So take me back to how you actually got into this industry, basically from the beginning.
Yeah, I stumbled across it. Me and an old friend, he was really jumping into it at the time that we started hanging out a lot. And at that time, it was just kind of something fun. I was watching it and I was like, that makes sense to me. And if you know what I'm saying when I say that, you have to have common sense to rap. And so I got it from the beginning. I quickly just looked at it and understood it, again, if that makes sense. And I went from there. So I was really self-taught. I didn't do any training classes. My first, quote, idol in this whole industry was Rob Ivers. And as distant as he is from, being number one in this rap industry anymore, my idol has definitely changed to Jim Miller. So
Jim Miller. Okay.
so I've come a long way, and I've definitely seen some prosperous people in this industry, and the Millers are definitely where I see myself in quite a few years, but not too long, hopefully.
Definitely. So when you had started getting into the industry, you basically were just helping somebody out that was doing just installs, or did they own like their own kind of like sign shop?
Just installs. They were hired at a local shop here in Central Florida on the other coast. And so I would spend, any of my free time there, just again, because it's so fun and a really interesting thing to learn. And there was nothing else for me to do at that time. Honestly, it was a really rough time in my life, and rapping, I clung to it.
How long ago was that?
7 going on 8 years. So this
Wow.
July, August will be year number 8 for me. And I'm young too. I'm only 26.
26, very young.
Yes.
But I feel like you've been in the industry for so much longer, because even when I had my Instagram with my company, I remember I was following everybody underneath the sun in the industry, and I was following you, and I saw the change of what you were doing to actually now with the podcast and following everyone kind of over again. And, I just feel like you've been doing it for so much longer, because I was doing it back in, got into the industry maybe like 2004-ish. And then went on my own like 2005, 6.
Okay, yeah.
And back then there weren't that many women in the industry doing much, so I kind of levitated to your Instagram. I'm like, wow, that's awesome that there's a woman actually doing prominent
a male's job. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Don't be afraid to say it. I am a woman in a man's industry, and I pride myself on it.
It's unbelievable. You, Shauna, Curvaceous, and anyone else. It's just a lot of props, and each one of you guys do separate things. I mean, Curvaceous does more design work. You do a lot of install. Shauna does a little bit of everything: design, print, install. It's just phenomenal that you guys can dominate and completely shake things up a little bit for us in the industry.
That's very humbling to hear, and that's not the first time I've heard that. A lot of my customers prefer me once they've had me as an installer, and they'll oftentimes say it's because I'm a woman, because I have that extra patience and that extra touch of, I won't call it OCD, but, I just want it to look right and be done right. That's awesome. Thank you.
We all have a little bit of OCD when it comes to rapping, the tedious corners and the concave curves. I mean,
you see those food trucks I do?
yeah, with the big rail down the middle. That shit ain't easy.
No, it's
That
not.
ain't easy.
It's not.
That's a lot of roly pro and heat, right?
It depends. I mean, if you've got a few minutes, I'll explain my process.
I got it. As long as you want to talk, I got all night.
I'll tell you real quick on those food truck rails, anyone who's listening, you definitely want to, I know it sounds crazy, you want to paint that primer in there. It's the only place I primer on a food truck. And then whenever you're going to stretch that in there, you want to make sure that you have over, like 12 to 16 inches above and below that rail that you are stretching and pulling into. Definitely don't go any closer than that. Well, I'll leave it at that, but I see a lot of folks that go, really close to that bar and they're leaving themselves with so little material, and that is why I'm pretty much a food truck queen. I was just talking to my guy today. I said, aren't those fronts really good, Jordan? And he said, Krystal, you've come so far. I remember the first one you did, and it was awful. So I'm now doing them seamless, so it's great.
Seamless? Really?
Well, outside of the fender part, yeah, the hoods are completely seamless. There is no patches in there, and they stay there. It's not coming up.
That's awesome. Yeah, the key to getting into those concave areas, even with like the sprinters, is leaving that gap so you're actually stretching the material from the top.
Oh, so vital,
as opposed to just tucking it. It's such a crucial part, and if you don't get it right, a couple days that thing's popping, and then you're basically ripping the whole thing off.
Exactly.
Starting over,
And if you don't feel comfortable with it, I want to throw this in there. I wish a lot of shops would start designing it with just a slender line of white in those body lines. Let your customer know, hey, we're going to give you a wrap with some longevity over looks. We're going to go ahead and drop that in there, and we're never going to see you again. Wipe your hands of it and be done with it. Otherwise, get trained on how to do those areas by someone you know is doing it right.
Oh, for sure. Sure. I always like the relief cut, the transits.
Exactly.
I know it's 50-50 in the industry. Don't cut it. Why would you cut that? But you know what? If I cut it, I know it's not coming back.
Exactly.
If I chance it the other way, even though I know how to properly do it, there's still a little bit of a chance that it could bubble up.
Absolutely.
And talking about training, have you done any training? Have any certs? Worked with any groups like Elite Rappers or anything in the past?
Yeah, I actually, this past year, 2017, I went down to Geek Rap and got 3M certified. So I do have that certification under my belt. I believe it's 3M cert. I don't know which. I don't want to be politically incorrect. I don't know which 3M certification I am. I also, this past year, went to Miller Decals and met up with Justin Pate and one of the Avery certification classes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that one was really fun. I have to go ahead and push that one. I think Justin holds a phenomenal class. He really, really goes above and beyond with the people that are in there, especially the beginners. The gentleman that hired me for the F-Type, it's for a customer of his, and he's a decal, and he's really wanting to get into wraps. And I actually met him at the 3M class. So he's here working with me on the F-Type. And all I've done this entire time and trying to let him be more hands-on is just recite things that Justin Pate said during the class. And I've never done that. I've never really put terms to things and talked so highly about a person or a class as much as I have with Justin. It was above and beyond. He showed you so many ways to do things. And I do have to admit, during the class, he asked me if I learned anything. And I said, well, I definitely learned a few things here and there. I've just been doing it for a long time. I wrapped well over 4,000 vehicles in my time. And I'm like, I've been doing this way that you're teaching a lot of these people for a long time. And that was a really good feeling to see him teaching these people who especially were just getting into it, not necessarily old dogs, the right way, or the fact that there isn't a right way, but there's a lot of different ways, and you definitely need to find your right way and, your right technique.
Definitely. What do you think about the class? Because I always like to get feedback, and I know I get numerous DMs or emails regarding classes and things of that nature. So I always like to kind of give them my recommendation, depending upon their area. Sometimes there's a class that's coming up for Avery in their area, they should take that. Or if 3M's in that area, what do you wish they talked about more of the Avery class that they may have missed out?
Again, Justin really covered so much in that class. I definitely endorse that class by far. And something I wish that they touched on more for this particular class with Justin Pate is don't take the certification class unless you have actually wrapped vehicles. That's probably my biggest lesson learned from that class was a lot of the people that were taking it weren't prepared for that simply because they didn't have the experience. And so I know that you still get that year to go back and do that. Outside of that, honestly, Justin did such a good job at that class. He even scientifically explains why the vinyl does what it does. And another thing, he shows you that there's not necessarily a right way, but try it this way or try it this way. And something that I really instill in people is don't be afraid. Tackle that vinyl and know that it's just vinyl. Don't be afraid. I think the class really covered it.
Yeah, you could pick it back up, move it around. The technology has definitely come a long way from even 8 or 10 years ago. So, yeah, and it's funny that you're talking about the terms because now I watch like YouTube videos or people on Instagram videos talking about, you got to create it and make it look like glass. And I think I'm almost positive that Justin is the one that came up with that. You got to make everything like glass and then you lay it.
Right, exactly. I actually today, again, working on that food truck, I had a customer come up behind me and he says, I was torching an area and he says, why are you doing that? And I said, I just, this particular area, it's a big obstacle for me because even though I'm working on something that's set back, I've got a 4-inch lip around the entire thing that's really holding me back. And so since I can't do what I need to do, I need to make it look super relaxed. And I didn't say like glass, but definitely in the same context. So he probably was the first, and that's something he'll admit in the class. He's the first one to put a lot of terms to the action. And so while it's, again, common sense, and that would make sense to me, I never said, hey, make it look like glass. I might say, pull here, make it taut, but, just they need that full understanding of terms.
Right. No, I totally agree. Before, it was just like...
We get so frustrated. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What? Triangles?
Exactly.
What are you talking about? And these are things that we see every day, and he's just physically... He's done so much, and he's such a great teacher. Not a lot of rap people in the industry can teach the rap. I mean, I couldn't. I used to get guys that would come in and they would help me out for like a summer because they'd just be interested and they knew a little bit, but I was never a great teacher. I'd get real frustrated. To sit down and actually teach somebody how to do it, you got to have way more patience than the actual act of rapping.
Yeah, and that's what I always tell people. You just need patience to rap and common sense. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, on having the patience to teach others.
For sure. Talk to me a little bit about your toolbox. Like, what do you have in your toolbox that's significant to you that you basically cannot leave your house if you're going to do an install without?
All right. So first and foremost are my squeegees. I have been in many situations where I have to stick a sticker somewhere and I just need my squeegee, and I'll run out to my car and I'll find one in the door and there we go. Job's done. So definitely all depends on the squeegee that I'm using for the day. And I really feel like they've evolved over the past few years. My new favorites are the Avery red and blue squeegees. I definitely want to throw those names out there because these squeegees are phenomenal. And a big key to using these, a lot of people I'm sure try them and say this doesn't work on the wrap, is the fiberglass tape. Yes. I keep a roll of that. I buy the roll from Fellers. I take my knife and I cut the roll down the middle, and one $100 roll, or however much it is today, lasts for a year and a half. So it's a great investment. I know there's a lot of alternatives out there, but it's quick and easy with the fiberglass. One roll, cut it in half, you get 2 times. And I keep that on all of my squeegees. I also keep a geek wrap squeegee, regular white and black squeegee as well.
And you rather use the tape over like a buffer? I mean, everybody's got a buffer now, PID, banana strips.
I don't use buffers outside of a new squeegee. So,
really?
Yeah, I do a lot of commercial, and while I know I may get shunned for this, I'm sure a lot of installers really care about the fine lines in their wrap that the buffers can cause. It's never been an issue for me in all 8 years of my wrap. I have these 3 squeegees in my pouch right now, and I've probably done 10 to 12 wraps with them. Wow. I've never changed the buffer side, the felt side, and I keep changing my tape. Every wrap, I change the tape just because it really helps give it a new, fresh edge. Outside of that, again, right. I don't ever really change my buffers. I just buy the squeegees. I love to endorse some of them. I've never really found a need for that. So I just get new squeegees when I'm like this F-type in my car, or in my garage. I just got new squeegees for that.
Yeah, when you're doing the color change, for sure, it's always good to buy a fresh new squeegee
Of
than
course.
having one
Right, yeah.
jumping around in your bag. Yeah, because God forbid you put a rip in it by accident.
Absolutely.
I had somebody bring up a conversation on a DM. They're like, "Can you ask somebody why everybody puts a squeegee in their mouth?"
Oh, it's so gross. I'm going to be honest. An old friend of mine, he lost a tooth because of it. He had a tooth going bad already from his childhood, and constantly we put our squeegees in our mouth, and finally one day his tooth kind of rotted, and we both were just a little thrown off by that, and ever since then I can't put one in my mouth. I mean, I throw it on the floor. I take it with me to the bathroom. So
yeah, right. It's just everywhere, and especially if you've got more than one installer, and you guys all put your squeegees away in one generic place. God forbid you're putting a squeegee in your mouth that Joe used yesterday. It's
yep.
just
and
disgusting.
You don't know where his hands have been. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's
yes.
insane.
No
yeah.
squeegees in the mouth.
None. That's unsanitary. So what else you got in your bag as far as like squeegees? What are you using for knives?
A lot of people are on the 30-degree blades. I am still a run-of-the-mill 9mm AABB carbon blade.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the only knife that I use for everything. When I started, I had an X-Acto. I got cut too many times and decided that I needed to get better with the Olfa, and I did. And so that's all I keep is just an Olfa knife with the Olfa carbon blades, and I get them on Amazon for super cheap.
Oh, yeah. Amazon is the best place to get those. Yeah. Go Amazon.
Yeah.
Selfish plug for Amazon.
Exactly. Send us some blades.
So, do you use, I know even, going back on the squeegee thing, but, selfishly, we break our blades too, and there's so many other companies coming out with, like, Blade Cage has their product where you could break the blade in. Do you have something similar to that, or do you usually just break them off and let them fall on the floor, sweep them up later, or typically take a scrap of vinyl and try to pick them up at the end of the install?
Yeah. I've done all of the above, and it was up until the 3M class when they gave me the little round holder, the little cheap plastic tube that they give you with the 3M class.
Yeah.
I still rock it.
Nice.
It fits perfectly in my pouch. I've got just a little circle here for it, and I definitely, since taking that 3M class last year, I have not put one more blade on the ground. I never realized how important that was. It's really, I feel it's made me look a lot more professional. No one's walking around with blades. And my son was probably a big deal too. Working at home and stuff, I couldn't just drop blades on the floor. So
right. Yeah, definitely safety first.
So yeah, I'm just using the Geek Wrap razor blades holder. But I would love to try the Blade Cage. That's actually manufactured here by not manufactured, but created by Lewis here locally to me.
Yes.
So I should probably jump over there and grab one.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure he can customize. He's got, I think it was like 15 different colors or something like that.
Holy cow.
Super cool. And he's got them anodized.
Lewis, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, right? That's awesome. He actually just called me the other day because we have him on our another episode we have called Toolbox Talk, and we talk to kind of manufacturers and people that have a specific service for the industry. Yeah, and we just talk for like, 30, 40 minutes, small I call them micro podcasts, and we kind of just like promote their product that they're selling that people in the industry may have not picked up or overlooked, and we kind of just dive deep into that product, and basically it's just my way to promote that product for someone who's, giving back to our industry, which is great.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh, that sounds wonderful. I mean, all those people put so much time and effort into the tools that we think about on a daily basis, but never take the time to create, manufacture, come up with, so props to all these guys that are really giving us the tools of our future.
Definitely.
So many times we've been like, hey, we need that. Hey, we need that. And what do you know, a year later, it's out there and someone's making money off of it. More power to them. And we're able to get our jobs done faster. Without those tools, we'd still be 50 years ago.
Right. What else you got going on? Do you use like a Rolly Pro, or do you use any type of rivet tool to get these food trucks done? Because I know those things are just rivets everywhere. So
covered, yeah. I have 2 rollers that I keep with me, and they're the only 2 rollers I've ever bought and I feel ever needed. I have the Rolly Pro and I have 3 Rolly Pros. Let me correct myself. And I have 2 VCAT channel rollers, the 3M VCAT, and those have by far been lifesavers on many, many, many occasions. So I highly recommend the Rolly Pro. I've also heard with my Rolly Pro from a lot of my customers that they have not seen rivets any tighter. I don't go back over them with a squeegee, so if you take your time and you really get comfortable with a Rolly Pro and setting up your channels, getting a good,
Right.
flow going, you can really lock in those rivets and make them look so much better, because there's so many times I've hired someone on a job and I've made them go back over rivets because it's just not good enough, and I know that the Rolly Pro is very capable of it. So
Yeah, it's definitely you have to have a straight technique because you can get a wrinkle really fast. And the key is, do 1 or 2 at a time. Don't try to do the whole freaking row at one time.
don't watch
Yeah,
me. But yeah, I agree.
by the time you get to that 5th or 6th rivet, it's already cooled off, and you're not going to get that tightness around that rivet. So it's definitely a great
Exactly.
technique you
Yeah.
have to build up with time with anything. Anything else that you have that possibly you think?
Nothing that really stands out. I have the typical Stabilo, I'm a torch user. I hardly ever use a heat gun. I've only broken it out recently here on this satin film. So I'm a torch girl. There's really no other tools that stand out to me. I definitely, I love the bumper pole, some stuff that I don't carry with me. I love a bumper pole. My sort of tools, if you look at my car right now, I have 2 walk planks and 3 22-foot A-frames. So my tools are the big tools. I cannot do the food trucks without them. Those are a huge help. And I don't think there's really anything else. Maybe I can throw this one out there. Another useful tool is xylene. I've talked to many detailers in a lot of paint shops, and yes, it is a crazy chemical, but it will help you remove those really stained on vinyls, the ones that, are just
Caked on.
horrifying to come off. Yeah. So definitely keep xylene in mind.
And it's called xylene.
Yes. Yeah. That's just another tool that I keep in my car at all times.
Is it like a more potent alcohol?
Oh, it's paint thinner.
Paint thinner. Oh, Jesus. So,
Yep.
I hope you're wearing gloves using that stuff.
Yeah, definitely wear gloves. If you go to Justin Pate's class, he'll tell you to wear gloves putting alcohol on. So, think about that kind of stuff. We are soaking in all this stuff. If you're using denatured alcohol, you have to think that's jet fuel that you're kind of soaking in. So, yes, xylene, definitely wear some gloves. But again, it's just a useful tool. You've just got that one little area that the rapid remover is just taking way too long on. So
yeah,
it saves a lot of time.
For sure. Rapid remover is what I usually use. The key is you got to be patient with that stuff. You have to spray it on and let it really soak for 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Before you
I keep it in 5 gallons. 5-gallon container. Same with xylene.
Yeah, and it's definitely key. You had mentioned you go to Home Depot, just run over to like the safety glasses area where they have like the gloves too, and pick up a small box of those like latex black. I think they're like mechanics gloves. Those things go a long way. A pack of 50 is like $8, but you know what? It saves your hands from getting dried out, absorbing all those chemicals. And that's one thing people don't bring up, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one huge thing I have in my box. It is definitely the gloves. I hate getting my hands dirty, even when you're cleaning underneath a wheel well. You know what I mean? Really good.
Oh yeah, the tops of my hands are always filthy if I'm cleaning or something, hitting everything. So yeah, that's
definitely
filthy. Yeah.
Let's transition a little bit to some cool projects. What is the coolest project that you've installed?
To be honest, I think the coolest project, this one came up last year and a little bit this year. I was called one day and a gentleman says, "Hey, I'm looking to do these 40-foot graphics on my 65-foot yacht." I said, "Okay, I'll be there at the end of the week to give you a quote." And he said, "Okay." And I did. And I sold him the job. He never called anyone else. And that was the coolest job just because of the whole boat itself. This was like a $15 million 3-story yacht. I got to put these really cool, it was a very simple gloss black and a light gray and a dark gray, just some really funky angles on the boat. But the boat itself looked kind of like a floating oil rig.
Wow.
And if you're anywhere near in the Gulf or anywhere, on the other coast from me, you'll probably see it docked or stationed somewhere. It's a very unique boat. It actually has like legs that make the yacht stand up and out of the water. And it's
Really?
completely self-sustainable with like 72 solar panels on the top. So it was just a really cool project overall. I was super lucky to be a part of that. And I think that that's why that project stands out to me. They went ahead and they sandblasted, and then I can't think of the name, but the round discs that you sand the metal with, they did that to all the metal around the graphics. And so it looks like this is just one big floating diamond on the water when the sun's out. And next to my graphics, I was blown away. I definitely need to post a picture of that. But that was my coolest picture, or my coolest job.
I was gonna say I haven't seen. I was looking through your Instagram today and just jotting down some cool projects you had going on. I didn't see that. I totally would have brought that project up.
It's kind of tough to get pictures of, to be honest. It's so large. I have to say, hey, wait here and let me drive to the other side of the channel, snag a picture. So that's probably been the reason I haven't posted any of that one. But that was a really fun project.
And you did that solo?
I had some help on it here and there. I did have someone on site with me at all times to operate the lift, and that honestly cut off so much of my time. As often as I do have to run a lift, which isn't a problem, it was just very nice having someone there to run the lift, and all I had to do was give him direction. That saved me a lot of time and money.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's money well spent if you had to rent one.
And it was during the hurricane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had to stop production for about a week, and the rental company wouldn't have understood.
Oh my God. Now going the other way, what is the most difficult wrap you've done?
All right, Skeppel, here's your shout out. This was when I worked for a local shop here. They were my biggest customer at the time, and I was pregnant at the time. So I went to work for them, and after having the baby, we had this gentleman come in who brought his radical in, and he wanted to have something really cool. So he hired Skeppel himself, and they came up with this really cool livery for his radical. I had never done one of Skeppel's crazy designs. So in taking on this project as the installer, not only the salesperson or whatever it was at the time, I wasn't really prepared mentally or physically for this job. It was just very detailed. There's so many points where you just need a nice list, and I wasn't really proficient at it at the time. It took a lot more hours than any of us had anticipated. But at the end of it, he was blown away, and that's what, of course, our goal was. It was as close as possible with some, small adjustments, just because as anyone who's designed a wrap or installed knows that going from 2D to 3D is sometimes impossible. Both Scott and the customer were super malleable with, timing and some designing parts of it. So that really helped as well. There wasn't a ton of stress on the project, but it was definitely very, very difficult.
Yeah, you definitely have to be prepared when you get one of Scott's designs, because he makes everything blend in so well for the renderings and profiling it. And it just, sometimes it's a little bit easier for the installer, sometimes a little bit harder. Your transitions from your front bumper to the quarter panels or the hood, it's just, his designs are just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still use him to this day for commercial wraps, for, anything cool that I can. So he is my go-to for design work in the industry. But again, his stuff can be difficult, so make sure you know what you're signing up for.
Oh, for sure. Do you do any type of design work yourself, or do you usually just sub it out?
I typically sub it out. I have a guy here that it's weird because when I talk about him, people probably think I have this weird crush on him because I kind of treat him like my little wrap god. He will take my bougie measurements of a food truck that I was really tired and I didn't want to go measure in the first place. That was 3 hours away. And he will turn that wrap template into the most perfect wrap template anybody could have made. So that right there is key. Having someone who says, hey, this doesn't really make sense to me. Your measurement here says 151, but my computer, according to all of your other measurements, says that it should be 147. And so that kind of care is huge when you want to just go and do a wrap right the first time. You don't want to have to reprint. That's an awful word in the industry. So, in subbing out, I definitely use Skeppel for design work. And then I use my local guy to really set the prints up the way that I like them. And then I'll have him do some smaller stuff for me. But I really want to try to get into designs this year, as I kind of shift into hopefully staying home more and spending more time with my son.
So let's talk about that. Your son's probably what, 3?
He's almost 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah, I know. Time flies, but not fast enough.
Not fast enough, right?
No, he's 2.5, and he is my world.
That's awesome. So how do you juggle being a wrap installer and being mom? Because we've all been there, with home life and the wrap industry and how hectic and time consuming the industry can kind of take you away from your home life. How do you juggle both?
That's a really difficult topic, and I have to give 100% of my ability to do this to my fiance, almost husband in a week. He works at Florida Hospital here locally, and I'm super thankful for both his job and his employers that they're able to really work with our schedule if need be, but we don't run into too many issues. He has a sort of set schedule, and so that allows us to really make everything work. Our daycare is across the street. Literally, we walk across the street, and it's an at-home daycare. And so really setting yourself up for success is the only way to do it, by having everything in place. Otherwise, you have to have a stay-at-home mom or dad, and for us, that just doesn't suit our needs or our wants. We don't have any family here that really a lot of people are able to drop their kids off at their parents or vice versa, and we just don't have that ability at all. I actually have had to drive my son to Tampa, which is an hour and a half from me, to drop my son off to go to work for a couple of days, which I'm very, very, very thankful for. I'm super lucky and blessed to have that, and I do have to schedule customers around that and such. I definitely tell them, hey, I'm dropping my kid off at grandma's and I'll be right over to you. Understanding customers is one thing, which as long as they have a kid, they are. And then having the right partner is how I juggle it. But there's a lot of things that I can't juggle, like my emotions when I'm gone. And I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this have had that same empty hole in your heart when you're gone for a week and all you want to do is go home to your kids, because at that point, this job isn't fun anymore.
Right.
That's when it becomes, you really start thinking about where you're going with things. And it took having a kid for me to really think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to juggle family life and, especially putting a kid in the middle of it,
Yeah.
multiple kids in some people's instances. It's hard. I'm same way. I've got two older daughters now. But I remember when I started from home, I would work around her naps. So I would juggle my installs and I would take her with me because I was mobile at the time, working from home, and I would take her in the car seat, plop her right next to me, let her one side of the door, pick her up, walk around, do the other side, go talk to my client. And it's funny, I bump into some of my older clients that I had for many, many years, and I'll have her with me, and she's 11 now, and they'll be like, hey, is that your daughter? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, because they'll bring up memories, and it's so humbling to think that like my clients were so cool for me to bring my basically newborn, I don't think she was even 1 at the time, with me to go do this, knowing that I had a family to feed and provide for, and they were just so cool. They would take her out and hold her, you know what I mean? It's so neat to get your kids involved. And, I would only hope that my kids would get into this trade because it's such a great trade, and it's such a great community and a culture. And, I won't push it on them, but, it'd be nice if they took dad's route and became a business owner as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I did the whole newborn thing too. When he was born, I still worked for the other company, and I actually took him to work with me for a couple of months. And finally, it just got to the point of where he was strapped to the front of me crying as a customer walks in the front door. And I said, okay, I've got to put you in daycare. So I did jobs too with
That's
it.
so
I'd put him in the car and work right next to him. So that's awesome. And I definitely admire you for that. But as far as, I'm sorry, I just lost the other question outside of the newborn. My fiance, he's a college, he went to college. And so, we're still paying off student loans and I'm here at 26 and I have no student loans. I definitely flunked out of my first semester of college. Again, that was a really rough time in my life, but at the same time, I want to make sure that when my son graduates, I want to give him the option to A, go to college, or B, take mom's route, or even a little bit of both. This is, like you said, it's such a driven, family-oriented, family-like community where, if he ever needed a job and he wanted to just up and move somewhere, this is an industry that you can do that. And so I would hope that no matter what, outside of being 2.5, helping mommy right now, I would love for him to really pick this trade up and soar with it.
Definitely. And he's got the best teacher to help him be
successful. He's doing it. You know what I mean? He wouldn't even leave my tool pouch alone today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw a cute picture of him with the squeegee trying to lay down some vinyl on the door. I love stuff like that. That's awesome.
And I'll throw this in there real quick. I was working at my house here just a couple weeks ago, and it was beautiful. And I was able to work outside. We had a food truck in my driveway. Can you imagine how my neighbors feel? But like I said, our daycare is across the street. And I guess we were making enough noise to where all the kids heard us, and they were all at the window. And one of the ladies there sent me a video, and it's just my son Lincoln saying, "That's my mommy. That's my mommy." And that right there, I was just like, you can send me as many of those as you want, because that right there did it for me. That's what I'm doing it for.
For sure. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great that you're able to bring him in. Having a home shop is great, but having like a shop away from home and missing out on certain times, because that's a huge topic that nobody talks about either, is the time you lose, especially when they're so young, because once they get older, they don't want to, mine are older, so I'm already going through it, but they don't want to be with dad or mom as much. They want to be out with their friends. And, you got that window from where they're, newborns till they're about 6, 7.
Yeah, and then they're done with
before they start doing overnights. Yeah, and then that's it. Done. So that time is very crucial. I mean, with my oldest one, I lost a lot of that time, and for me, I regret it. I wish I was there more, but building a business and being the provider of the family, that kind of took priority, because I needed to make sure they had food in the table too. But with my other one, my 6-year-old now, I've spent so much time and made up for it with her, but it's kind of like a weird thing.
Yeah.
Industry's great, but you also have to learn how to balance, which a lot of us do and don't, and end up divorced or things happen or breakups. It's
and that's what I was going to add in there too, is getting married here, the talk about our next baby and such. Like you said, I don't want to regret losing those years, and so I'm making the choice now to start going in a direction where I can be home more, I can have another baby, and I can spend time with both of them while they're still young enough to not necessarily remember mom being gone the whole childhood working. I miss friends, our family birthdays, how many times is a job today is a great instance. I had a job run over 6 hours today. And so, if I had plans, that they would be in the garbage, because I know that all of us give our lives to work. And unfortunately, that includes our family. That's why I give all my praise to my fiance. I could not do it without him.
Absolutely. Yeah, without our partners, we wouldn't be able to do what we love.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So what is 2018 bring for Candy Wraps?
This year, we will be launching our construction, our contractor, our everything under the sun that has more than 5 vehicles. We want to wrap you. That's what we're launching this year. That's what 2018 holds, as well as hopefully getting set up for some design work. I know that probably no one wants to hear this, but, I would like to have another baby next year. So in the meantime, really, I'd like to do a lot more selling of wraps versus installs. And the hardest part on that is finding another installer like me.
Right.
That'll never happen.
Right. No, it won't, but you can get close. If
we
you
can get close.
Yeah, you definitely start molding them now. So when you're ready to
Yeah.
make that transition, you're ready to go. I think that's a big key though. You find someone that you can mold and they haven't learned the improper way of doing things, and you can kind of mold them to you. You can get them close, not exactly, you, but to make that transition, definitely putting together a plan, which you seem to have now, and starting it and executing it. That way you can kind of segue into your next chapter, which would be, starting creating a bigger family for yourself as well as selling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I have countless people ask me why I don't have a shop or why I'm not, selling more wraps. And I have a dozen people every week ask me for quotes and such. And the hardest part for me would be walking away from installing, knowing that I was leaving all of my customers with mediocre installs to what they're used to, and the care and the consistency that I give. That was definitely the hardest part for me the first time when I left mobile installing, and it will be the tough part again.
Letting that person fly on their own with your brand, your name, to go do an install.
No, not even. I don't. Again, a lot of my customers are very far from me as far as the traveling that they would like to do. These national accounts, they have these fleet accounts and they're all over. And so if I'm here selling and designing and doing whatever I can do here, I'm not going to be taking on those big projects. So it's really just handing over customers to people that think they can handle the amount of crap that all of these good installers do. Yeah. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it who has those accounts and has been able to keep those accounts, because that's a big one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where you kind of want to be, and you want to get the 5, 10, 50, 100 fleet jobs where you're guaranteed a contract for 2 to 3 years. I mean, those types of contracts, they don't come all the time, but when they come up, it's a bidding war for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I love about my job, is because I don't have to do any of that as the installer, and that's one thing I really love. But I do have a lot of those customers with those big contracts. I work for a customer that has Orange Theory Fitness, just countless fleets, again, that are just all over. They have those really big contracts, and there's just so much money flying around. That's awesome.
I remember when the ice cream yogurt stores were popping up.
Frozen yogurt, yeah.
They were just in every corner, and I'd see a car wrap in the parking lot at every single one. I'm just like, wow, whoever has that account is making bank right now, because now, like 2 years later, they're gone.
Right.
They kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, it was just free
That's
money.
It. And you got to just go out there and get it.
No more warranties. Those wraps are gone. Nothing to worry about. No fender benders, no.
Somebody's laughing all the way to the bank right now.
Yeah. Yep. And those are the kind of accounts, not even that, just those big accounts. That takes some project managing, it takes a lot to get those accounts, to secure them and to keep them happy. And hopefully I will be able to start with some of those this year.
Definitely. I wish you all the well for 2018. Is there anything else, Krystal, that we might have not brought up in topic that you might want to talk a little bit about?
Not really. I mean, you've done a wonderful job at covering everything that I really will talk about. Oftentimes I'm with friends and they'll ask me how work is, and I'll say it's great, and that's it. I'm not a big talker about work, but I do love what I do, and I think that really that's the most important thing that anyone that's getting into this industry is. If you don't love it, don't do it. Don't look at this as an easy way to make money. Definitely care about what you're doing, the cars you're touching, the people's lives that you're touching. I know that sounds a little cliche, but you're a business owner, they're a business owner. So a lot of shops that I deal with and don't deal with, they don't go above and beyond for their customers. And that's what I'd love to see more of.
Definitely. That's a great way to end the podcast right there. I love that. Krystal,
very true.
Krystal, let everybody know where they can find you on social media or any type of website if they're looking to contact you for an install in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. I service all of Central Florida, above and beyond that, and now I charge travel fees.
Awesome.
But I am based in Orlando. I love helping people on jobs, as well as if you need a reference, believe me when I say I'm one of the people you can hand over your job, walk away from, make your money, and never have to think twice about the job. I love what I do. So that's a great benefit that I love. I've definitely handled the projects from beginning to end as much as possible. You can find me on Instagram at @candywrapper_. I believe that's right, @candywrapper_. Or you can find us on Facebook at Candy Wraps. You'll be able to find me on there. Or if we have any mutual friends, go ahead and click the add button and you'll see lots of pictures of my cute son. So,
Krystal, it's been an absolute honor to have you on here. I love what you're doing for the industry and keep up the great work. And I only wish you the best for 2018.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the honor. Again, a lot of the comments have been very humbling, and all I want to do is promote the industry as a whole. And by being a part of this and by pushing what you do and what a lot of these guys are doing in the industry, we can only go up from here. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you enjoyed this episode of the All Wrapped Up podcast. If you liked our content, hit that like button and review. And to stay up to date with future episodes, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, that's a wrap.